Hey y'all, it's Shani. I am back again today with a mise en place video. Those of you who have been around for a while know that I am on a crusade to have people do their mise en place before they start baking. It's another one of those things that helps us build confidence as bakers. So let's go ahead and get right into it, shall we? Today I'm making a snickerdoodle pound cake. I will link the recipe below for you. Those of you who are familiar with my snickerdoodle pound cake, we're just going to walk through it today because I really want to encourage you guys by telling you the story of how I got into baking. This one's for those of you who were told that you would never be able to bake. Pay attention during this mise en place video. There are some gems in here that are going to help you if you're new on your journey, if you struggle with consistency, if you don't feel confident. Pay attention. Okay, so when I was a kid, my mother, I've said it over and over again, was this just amazing, prolific baker. She could do anything. And she had this amazing imagination for baking. My mother was a mathematician, and so she loved the math and science behind baking. Um, Even though she was a very intuitive baker, but she still used math and science to a degree to kind of help her with her baking. And again, you can grab the recipe for my snickerdoodle pound cake right below. I was not that kid that was either intuitive about baking, and I kind of had a math and science mind, but it wasn't like my mother's. My mother was an actual wizard when it came to baking, and she and my sister could whip up some of the most just delicious things you've ever seen in your life. I didn't have that. I was actually quite bad at baking. And it made me sad because it was something that I could see connected my mother and my sister quite a bit because they both loved it. And I loved them and wanted to be in the kitchen with them. So they would give me jobs like, hey, go prep the pan. Hey, wash the dishes, which I was cool with because if I washed the dishes, that meant that I got to get the first crack at the beaters and at the bowl and at the spatulas. And if you know, you know. So I was still really sad because I wasn't able to bake. And it was only as an adult, when I had children of my own, that I realized I wanted that, right? I had tried, I'd had fits and starts over the years with my baking, mostly fits, not a whole bunch of starts, because I was frustrated. And I realized that when my daughter was born, I wanted to create that magic for her. I just never prioritized it. When she was 3 years old, in her preschool class, my daughter's class was getting ready to do an activity with their letters. It was such an exciting time for them. The teacher was trying to figure out activities that would be super fun for them. And one of the activities that she came up with, bless her heart, was making sugar cookies and decorating those sugar cookies. It was going to help the children with their letter recognition, and it was a great idea. In order to assist with the sugar cookie activity, the teacher enlisted the help of all of the parents. It's like this low-level crowdfunding. One parent brings cups, one parent brings plates, other parents bring various items, right? And the ones who arrive late to pick up their kids are always the ones tasked with bringing the most challenging items. If you know, you know. And if you know, let me know in the comments the most challenging thing that you as a parent have had to bring to your kids' school. Anyway, as usual, I was the last parent to arrive that day at my daughter's school. And as usual, it was only the sugar cookies that were left on this list. And I had a moment of panic when the teacher said, Mrs. Wissenhont, would you mind providing the sugar cookie letters for our sugar cookie letter activity? And when I say, my soul was like, say no, say no. My soul was telling me to say no, but my mouth said yes. Because both the teacher and my daughter had these very expectant looks on their faces. And I knew that the teacher was going to be stuck if I said no. So I said yes. I did not know at that time that it was going to be a watershed moment in my actual life. What I knew at the time was that I needed to find a recipe and execute that recipe in a very short period of time, and that I was slightly terrified of the prospect of letting down a 3-year-old. By the way, she's 13 now, and I'm equally terrified of letting her down. The night before the sugar cookies were actually due, I thought I was ready. I knew there was chilling and rolling and all kinds of steps that it was going to take to execute these sugar cookies because I was a researcher by nature, but not a baker. I decided to do all of it in one night. And for those of you who know what it takes to actually make sugar cookies, you know that it was a tremendous mistake to start the sugar cookies the night before they were due. In 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, and 3 years of law school, for a combined total of 11 years of my life, I never once pulled an all-nighter. Why is that relevant, you might ask? Because for the first and only time in my life, I pulled an all-nighter the night that I was making sugar cookies for my daughter's class. The way I was so bleary-eyed the next day taking my daughter to school was a little terrifying for me. But we got to school safely, and she had 2 large containers with 52 sugar cookies, A through Z, twice. So she went to school. They had a fabulous time doing the sugar cookie activity. I'm telling you, those cookies were like spectacularly passable, right? But the look on her face, because she was the purveyor of cookies that day, it ignited something in me. I wanted to conquer this thing about baking once and for all. And I knew that the way that my sister and my mother baked was not accessible for me. I knew that already. So I decided I was going to learn my own way. And I decided to find a resource, right? And to teach myself the ins and outs of baking in a way that I understood. And I found a resource. I found the internet. The internet is a great place to find information. The internet can sometimes be a bad place to find good information. And I quickly learned that for the type of information that I was trying to learn, the internet was not a bad place, it was just a confusing place. And I got confused and frustrated all over again, y'all. I wanted to bake so badly. I wanted to be good at it because I wanted to be the mom who, if my daughter said, I really want some chocolate chip cookies today, could bake her some chocolate chip cookies. And I was getting frustrated and going back and forth, and I thought, maybe the answer isn't on the internet. Maybe the answer is just in some books. So I purchased the book that changed my life. It is The Professional Pastry Chef by Bo Freiberg, and it is still, to this day, 10 years later, the book, the resource that I go to if I get stuck. It is dog-eared and coffee covered and all kinds of annotations in the margins, and I taught myself to bake using that book. I also learned how to teach other people, how to show other people how to do things, reading that book. I would take in the information and then I could break it down for somebody else. And I was like, oh, I like that part. Being a natural teacher by nature, I loved being able to share what I was learning with other people as I was learning it. And that's how I evolved as a baker. I went from not being able to bake a lick, nothing, listen, nothing, to being a much more confident and competent baker because I found one resource and I dug in and decided that I was going to learn. Friends, baking has changed my life. Baking in many ways has changed me for the better. Baking has led me down avenues I didn't even know were for me. And I say this to say, if you are out there and you really want to learn how to bake, It's not inaccessible for you. Please don't believe that. I suffered all kinds of ridicule from my family, and I believed for a long time that I just couldn't do it. And that wasn't true. I found one resource and I stuck with it. And if you stick with me, if you find that I am the resource that you want to stick with, the one who can break down information in a way that's super helpful for you, I'm ever grateful to you for that. Wherever your resource is, find one, maybe two, and stick with them. That is the best thing I can offer to you today if you are a new baker trying to do good baking in this world. I hope this is helpful for somebody. If you want to check out where I am, you can check the links below. I am at beginwithbutter.com. That is the blog where you can find oodles and oodles and oodles of free resources. When you're ready to get really serious and dig deep into your baking journey and dig deep into what it means to create recipes and be like a baker's baker, I have the Home Baking Academy for you. Again, the link is below. You can see it at course.beginwithbutter.com. And always, you can subscribe here on YouTube. I'm so glad that you joined me today for my Mise en Place, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.